hospitality. So, therefore, please think about the person next to you. Pass the food around. If someone comes in the middle, grab them a chair, let them grab some food. Welcoming the next person is a big part of hospitality. So even if it's not your home, you can still get the mitzvah of welcoming and hosting a guest if you are generous and kind to the person next to you or the people who walk in. So please do that. My name is Joseph Wilhelm, and I'm honored to be going on the journey of learning about Shabbos with all of us. I know it's Sunday, but we're going to learn about Shabbos. It's going to be a 6-part course on Shabbos, and my Bli Neder promise is after 6 weeks, you will know enough about Shabbos to keep Shabbos and know where to find the answers to your deeper Shabbos questions. Shabbos has Hilchos Rabos LaShabbat. Shabbos has many, many, many laws. From the most laws of the Torah, we're not going to get through all the laws, but we will get through enough that you know what is a question, what is not a question, where to find the answer, etc. Okay. So, wait, who needs a chair? There's chairs there are. Also, there's the VIP private lounge couches. You know what I mean? Okay. You have the music playing upstairs from the gallery. You know, the whole thing. Shabbos. The Jewish people got a gift from Hashem called Shabbos. And it says, V'shamru b'nei Yisrael as a Shabbos. The Jewish people have guarded and kept Shabbos. But more than the Jewish people have kept Shabbos, Shabbos has kept the Jewish people. By the way, the word Shabbos and Shabbat are interchangeable. In case you weren't sure, it's obviously a Hebrew pronunciation of which dialect of Hebrew you're pronouncing. Do you have a tuf and a suf in your alphabet, or just a tuf? That's the only difference. But they're interchangeable words. Please come inside. So Shabbos is what the gift that Hashem gave the Jewish people. He said, I'm going to give the Jewish people a gift, and the gift is called Shabbos. When Hashem made the world, he made the world. There's 6 days of creation. Every day of creation has a partner. Sunday has Monday. Tuesday has Wednesday. Thursday has Friday. And Shabbos said, hey, who am I married to? Hashem said, you are going to be married to the Jewish people. Right? When we say in L'cha Dodi, we say, L'cha Dodi, come my beloved, L'kras Kala, to greet the bride. Who's the bride? Shabbos is the bride of the Jewish people. We're Hashem's bride, but we're also Shabbos's husbands. We're the husband of Shabbos. Okay. Why do we keep Shabbos? So in the Aseret Dibrot, in the 10 Commandments, they're recounted twice. Twice the 10 Commandments are recounted in the Torah. One in Parshas Yisro, where they historically happened, right? After the Jewish people left Egypt, 49 days later, they received the Torah at Mount Sinai. And that's when they got the 10 Commandments. And then another time before Moshe passed away, he repeated the 10 Commandments 40 years later to the generation that was coming in to the land of Israel. In each one of those 10 Commandments, you'll notice there's differences. Moshe didn't say it over exactly as it was the first time. One of the big differences is what's the reason why we keep Shabbos? So this is not a trivia question, but who knows why we keep Shabbos? 2 reasons given in the 10 Commandments of why we keep Shabbos. One of them. Seventh day of creation. Thank you, Levi. Levi, by the way, who was the chair of the luncheon, one of the chairs of luncheon. Thank you. He said like this: Hashem. So this is the most common reason given. It's given in the first of the 10 Commandments, which is Hashem, God created the world. He is creator of heaven and earth. And when Hashem created heaven and earth, he created the heaven and earth in 6 days. And what did he do on the 7th day? He rested. So to remind ourselves that God is the creator, right? We work 6 days thinking, I'm the creator. And on Shabbos, you know what? Hashem is the creator. I'm not the creator. Hashem is the creator. And it reminds us that I'm not really the creator. Rather, it reminds us Hashem is creator of heaven and earth. Right? And this is what we say in our davening multiple times in Shabbos. Hashem created heaven and earth in 6 days, and he rested on the 7th. Therefore, we work 6 days, and we rest on the 7th day. when the Jewish people were in Egypt, Moshe went to Pharaoh. Moshe was the prince of Egypt. He was not per se a Jewish boy. I mean, he was Jewish, but he was being raised in Pharaoh's palace after the king's daughter, Batya, had brought him in from the Nile River. So Moshe was going out and seeing the king and his slaves, the Jewish people. And after a while, he came back to the king and said, it's not going to work. You work the slaves rugged every day. There's no break. They're going to die. You have to give them a break. So the king said, okay, how often should I give them a break? So he said, every seventh day, you should give them a break. They could rest every seventh day. So that's reason number one. But let's talk a little bit about reason number one in just a second. The second reason is Hashem took us out of Egypt. We were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, right? So we were owned by somebody else. Slaves are owned. We don't like slavery. It's a bad thing. But there was such a thing as slaves. There still is such a thing as slaves. But in the old days, it was much more common. The Jewish people were owned by Pharaoh, king of Egypt. That's who owned them. Not only their work. Your boss owns your work. They own their bodies. Not God-given, but practically they control their bodies. So Hashem said, I took the Jewish people out of Egypt and to remember that they work for me. Now, who do we work for now? Who's our new boss? Hashem. In other words, Pharaoh owned us. Hashem took us out. So now we're owned by Hashem. So Hashem says, okay, since you are now owned by me, to recognize that you're owned by Hashem and you work for Hashem, on the seventh day, don't work. That's a sign that you're not working for yourself. It's a sign that you're working for Hashem because Hashem owns us. Hashem took us out of Egypt. These are the two reasons given in the Ten Commandments why we keep Shabbos. Okay, so you might ask, on the first reason, the most common question is, what would be the most common question? What does it mean? I'll ask you, because you didn't ask a question, so it must be your answer. What does it mean that Hashem rested on the seventh day? Did Hashem go to Hawaii? Which island did Hashem check out to? We say Hashem rested on the seventh day. You know what I mean? He said, this has been great. Sayonara. Where did Hashem go? Did he go skiing? Who knows where Hashem, right? What do you mean Hashem rested on the seventh day? This is the most common question. The fact it says in the Torah multiple times, Hashem rested on the seventh day. What does it mean God rested on the seventh day? There's a basic answer and a more nuanced answer, but hopefully we can get the basic answer here at least.
He didn't do it.
So what does it mean?
He didn't create.
Oh, which is I think what you said, right? In other words, for 6 days before the beginning of creation, what was there?
Nothing.
Absolute nothingness. There wasn't time. There wasn't space. There wasn't a universe. There was nothing. Literally nothing. We can't imagine nothing because we can't imagine a space without ourselves existing. We just humanly, a creation can't understand the fact that there could have been no space even for creation. But realistically, creation, space and time is a creation. So before the beginning of creation, there was zero. And then over the next 6 days, every day God created something new. On the first day, Hashem said, let there be a globe and let there be light and dark. There's a globe with light and dark. And day 2, Hashem said there should be higher waters, lower waters. Day 3, Hashem divided, created dry land where vegetation started growing. And then we had all the sun and the moon and the stars, the constellations. And those went up, the whole universe, and fish and birds, and then animals, mankind. And Shabbos came and Hashem said, I have a full world. So on Shabbos, technically Hashem didn't create anything new. And I want to stress this, very important. God didn't create anything new. Because who's creating the world this very second? Hashem. The world Hashem didn't make the world in 6 days and say, okay, you're good to go. No. Every single moment thereafter, Hashem has to be creating the world every single moment. This is a foundational tenement of Judaism, as explained by the Chassidus at depth, right? The world is being created every single moment. So Hashem is still creating the world. As the Gemara asked the question, in the time of the Romans, there were some educated Romans. So one time a Roman matriarch, noblewoman, would be a better translation, came to Rabbi Akiva. She said, Hashem doesn't keep the Torah. Hashem promises he'll keep the Torah. It says whatever he tells the Jewish people to do, Magi Dvorov Yaakov, whatever God says, asks us to do, Hashem himself does. That's what God says. But he said he doesn't keep Shabbos. Why not? One of the prohibitions on Shabbos is you're not allowed to water plants. But she said, but Hashem makes it rain. Right? So Hashem is breaking Shabbos. If it rains on Shabbos, shouldn't be allowed. Hashem should not be allowed to make it rain on Shabbos. And the Gemara answers that it's all in a private domain, or it's just hayachid. For the God, the whole world is a private domain, and therefore Hashem is not desecrating Shabbos. What's her answer? So we're going to learn Allah is a private domain, public domain. But the short of Rabbi Akiva's answer, and this is Rabbi Akiva's answer to this woman, was God didn't make anything new. Everything is still in Hashem's territory. Nothing left Hashem's territory. We are still in godly territory. Hashem is making us each and every single second. And I'm going to take 2 minutes and explain this. As Chassidus does, logically, we have to understand how it's so fundamentally part of our belief as Jewish people that God is creating this world and each and every one of us every single second. Logically, and then obviously the takeout. Logically is because if Hashem is creating the world if Hashem made the world, what matter did Hashem use to make the world? What raw product did God use?
Himself.
Thank you. There's no raw product. It was a trick question. There's only godliness, right? Hashem didn't have clay, dirt, molecules, atoms. Hashem didn't have any of that. There was nothing. Hashem only had God. And then Hashem took God energy and made it appear to be a world. And that's what we're living in. We're living in a world being created by God energy. So if that God energy stops creating the world, what do you have left? Nothing, because we didn't really take anything. See, the person who made this book, which please God, we're going to get everyone a copy by next week for the laws of Shabbos, you have your own. They took paper, they took things, they took a tree with paper, which originated from a tree, they made it into paper, and then they got ink, which was made out of whether berries or some sort of dye, and then they just attached them together. So then they attached them together, they walked away, because they took two things that were already in existence, just reconfigure them, and that's how you have a book. But the world wasn't made from anything. It was made from nothing. When you make something from nothing, you have to keep on projecting the nothing. Okay, by way of example. Here's my example. If you imagine we had a projection, I've shared this before. Imagine instead of this beautiful wallpaper, you just had a projector projecting this beautiful wallpaper, right? And then suddenly you want to get rid of the projector, the wallpaper looking. What would you do? I'll share it again, right? Everything okay? Okay. Okay, no problem. Imagine you had a projector, instead of the wallpaper here, you just had a projector shining a picture of this beautiful trees and birds on the wall. And then you wanted to get rid of the trees and birds from the wall. What would you do? Shut off the projector. Thank God, someone, right? Right? Why? Because there's nothing really there. Right? For this conversation, we consider light nothing. You didn't take paper and paint, and you didn't put anything there. You just had a projector. So if you didn't take items and make it, then it's only there as long as the projector is projecting it. The second the projector stops working, it ceases to exist. Same too, God didn't take a raw product. Hashem took godly energy. He's projecting godly energy every moment to create this world, to create what we see. If Hashem stops it for a second, it will cease to exist, like it never was. Right? When you shut off the projector, will you see a trace, a remnant of the beautiful picture on the wall? No, because it was never really there. It was just a projection. If Hashem stops to make the world, not only will the world cease to exist, it will cease to exist and there'll be no remnant, no memory of the world in an instant. So God has to create the world at every single second. He must. So what does it mean that Hashem rested? So it means Hashem rested. Answer one, which you and Miriam shared, is that Hashem made nothing new. Hashem is just continuing the projector. He didn't there's a designer of the projector. You got to figure out what you want it to look like. That he did in 6 days. After that, Hashem is continuing to project. At every moment we are being created. Now, the fact that we're being created every moment gives a Jewish person and a human the greatest power in the world to know that I could always do what's right and nothing in the world could stop me from doing what's right. Right? Let's say some people have a challenge to keep Shabbos. If we acknowledge that every single moment Hashem is making the world, that means nothing could stop me from keeping Shabbos, because Hashem, who asked me to keep Shabbos, is making the world at this very moment. Right? So even though things might appear to be a challenge, maybe my boss, maybe Instagram, maybe my friends, right, might seem to be a challenge to keeping Shabbos or keeping any part of Judaism, is just a figment of imagination. It only appears that way. But really, Hashem is making those challenges just to test us when we overcome those challenges. They're not real challenges. They are God-made challenges to see what we overcome. Because Hashem is giving life and energy to everything and at every single moment of the world. There's nothing independent of God. Even the worst human being does not have any energy outside of God-given energy. That's what they have. Even in the Nazis were being created by God as they're murdering the Jewish people. It's a hard fact to wrap our minds around, but it's a fact. Hashem has to create the world at every single moment. So answer one is, which was our question is, there's no, God didn't create anything new. No creative and new things were created. Because of that, if you look at the laws of Shabbos, before we move on to the second explanation, you'll see very interesting the laws of Shabbos. If you tell somebody who doesn't yet keep Shabbos or hasn't been informed of Shabbos, tell a non-Jew, what do you do on Shabbos? You say we rest. We can't work on Shabbos, right? So what does that mean? You say, well, I can't go on the computer, I can't answer my phone, I can't turn on the light switch. Okay. Are you allowed to set the table? Yeah. Are you allowed to pick up the chairs? Yeah. Are you allowed to, run in place? Yeah. So say, oh, so you're allowed to work, right? Where are you drawing the line of what's considered a work or not? Right? I mean, some people are working hard on Shabbos. Rabbis work the hardest on Shabbos. They say no one should work on Shabbos. Their main day of work is Shabbos. They're cheaters, right? That's what they get paid for, the big bucks. By the way, my son thinks the rabbis are from the 30 highest paying jobs, so, which is good because I wanted to be a rabbi, so you don't have to tell him otherwise till later. Well, he sees we live in this house. I mean, we're blessed. So God bless him. Baruch Hashem. Can't hear, but it should be true. I don't know if Forbes knows that yet. We'll find out, right? So, we don't have to tell them. We need to know. Anyway, so we do work on Shabbos. So where's the line of work? A person will say, what do you mean? For me to turn on the light switch is the easiest thing to do. Instead, you're making me walk around in the dark, not as comfortable. That's not called relaxing. That's not called not working. So the answer is, look at what Hashem did. Hashem stopped doing creative work. Shabbos, we're not allowed to work. We can't create. What can we do on Shabbos? We can't do creative work. So if you look at what we can do on Shabbos, and we'll explore this in our sessions here, you can take a cucumber and cut it into slices. There was nothing creative about that. You didn't change anything. But to take water, put it in the freezer, create ice, you changed. Now you change it from one to another existence, right? To take and write two letters or write a word, that's creative, right? You didn't just make a mess. You created now verbiage. To build a building is not allowed. To build on Shabbat is not allowed. Why? That's creative. You're changing. You're doing something different. To plant a seed, you're in a process of developing, of creation. So what's not allowed on Shabbos, to be accurate, if you want to tell someone what we can't do on Shabbos, is creative work. Because God didn't create. He sustained. He kept the world rolling. And we also could keep life moving. We eat on Shabbos, right? It takes our body a lot of energy to break down all the challah carbs. True. But that's not called creative work. Creative work means that we're being creative, we're changing something. So therefore, again, the definition of work on Shabbos is not work. As Big Donnie Goomberg sings in a song, right? Ain't gonna work on Saturday. It means I'm not gonna do creative work. It's not about how hard it is. Is that I am creating and changing the definition of something or on a process of creating something different. That is what is not allowed on Shabbos. Okay. And to go further, how do we know what are the main things you can't do on Shabbos? So it says in the Torah, you should keep my Shabbat, you should keep Shabbos, and a fear of the Mishkan, of Hashem's home. When the Jewish people were traveling for 40 years in the desert after they left Egypt, they built a home for Hashem. In Hebrew called the Mishkan, in English called the tabernacle. And eventually that went on to become a permanent home called the Beis Hamikdash, the temple of the Jewish people in Yerushalayim. So because the juxtaposition of Torah, it says, guard my Shabbos and fear my temple, we understand that what works are the prime work we cannot do on Shabbos is whatever it took to build and operate and primarily build Hashem's home. So whatever was work that was needed to build Hashem's home, and I'm thinking of it's true. But what's really happening is I'm coming back to myself, right? Like people say, oh, I just want to go home, my own bed right after vacation. It's so fun. Now I should go home and sleep in my own bed and eat my own food. Even though your food isn't as good, your bed isn't as good, but it's me. But it's me. And you come back to yourself. That's what rest says. Come back to yourself. Be yourself. That's what rest is. So again, the definition of rest, thank you. The definition of rest is coming back to yourself. Being your truest self. That's why after people rest, they're more calm, they're more patient. Not because I need more patience to tolerate the other person, I do, but because now I'm more myself. And me as a person, I have more patience for you. And me as a person, my best self, I want to do certain things in a certain way, but when I'm tired, I can't be like that. So it's not only it could be physically tired, or just I need a break. What do you mean? Why do I need a break? Because I need to stop being for others, and I just need to be myself for a second. For always being for others, we're never being for ourselves. The problem is we've never come back to ourselves. We're actually missing out on life. We're not going to be our best selves if we're always working. This is what Moshe told Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Your slaves, you work them every day. They're never resting. They're not going to be optimum workers. They're not going to work as good because they're never coming back to themselves. So when Hashem said, I'm going to rest, it means Hashem said, now I want the world, myself, if you will, and the world to come back to its original source, to itself. What does that mean? And this is what happens every Shabbos. At every Shabbos, the world goes back to its original self. Okay. When Hashem made the world, it was, if you will, an outside expression of Hashem. Of course, everything's inside of Hashem's godly energy. But it was how Hashem is as if relating to an outside energy. In the Sefirot, in Kabbalah, it's called Malchus. Malchus, a king, or kingship, leadership. The definition of being a leader means you're taking care of people or something outside of yourself. Right? You can't be the leader of yourself. I mean, you could take care of yourself. You're not the leader of yourself. You're leading your king over others, right? So Hashem's kingship, Hashem's kingdom is when Hashem made the universe. Hashem made the world. Now Hashem is a kingdom. And that kingdom is made when Hashem said 10 verses in the beginning of the book of Bereshis, in the beginning of the Torah, right? God said, let there be light, let there be a firmament, let there be dry land, let there be celestial beings. So these were utterances. Again, when I speak, I don't speak to myself. If you see someone talking to themselves, you say, what's wrong with you? First you check if they have, nowadays you check if they have earpods, because maybe they are talking to somebody else. But if you figure out that they're actually talking to themselves, something's wrong. You know, that's not normal to talk to yourself. Because speech, by definition, is made to talk to someone else. If someone's talking to themselves, it could be that something's wrong inside mentally with them. Why? Because that means their processor needs them to talk to themselves. Something's wrong. You are yourself. You shouldn't need to talk it out to yourself. It helps to talk things out with someone else, but not to yourself. Something's wrong if you're talking to yourself. Right? Something's wrong internally with your processor. If you want to practice a speech, that's not called talking to yourself, right? When you're actually talking to yourself, something's wrong. But because by definition, speech means I'm talking to an outsider. So when Hashem made the world, he was creating energy outside of himself, or at least appeared to be outside of himself. God used speech. It's a figure of saying it's outside of me. Those words are gone. Hashem used the power of creation outside of God. So then Hashem said on the seventh day, but it's not all about outside of me. Where's the real energy of creation of the world? From God himself, from God's internal, highest form of existence, from God's infinite energy, what's called Ein Sof. From the power of infinite is where the power of creation of the world comes from. To create something from nothing, you got to have godly infinite power. Source of the world, the depths of Hashem. God's inner essence is the power that's creating the world. It expressed itself through speech as if an externality, but really it's God's most internal energy. So on Shabbos, Hashem said, okay, I want the world's energy to come back to its source. I want the world to not act like a world as if it's outside of me. Every Shabbos, I want the world to remember that where's the energy of creation? I want it to go back home to its source, to Hashem's inner existence. Okay, which could be called Zah, it could be called Keser, depends on which it would be crown. In other words, the origination. I want it to come back to its origination. That's what I want the world to go. That's a Kabbalistic terminology, but it's really practical idea. It means Hashem said, rest. I want the energy of the world to come back to its source. And every Shabbos, Hashem says, I want everyone to go back to their source. For 6 weeks, we're running around. For 6 days, we're running around. We're working. We're chasing. We're trying to make things happen, whether it's at work or whether we're trying to make things happen in the kitchen or trying to run a home. We're trying to make things happen for 6 days. That's what we do. We're creators. On Shabbos, we say, stop. Stop creating. Just be yourself. Go back to your true self. That's what rest means. Go back to your true self. And that's why it's so sad with people who don't keep Shabbos and they're on Instagram the entire day. When are they ever going to be themselves? It's not only about Instagram. It's easy to understand. If you never let go of your phone, right, you're owned by your phone. The world owns you. Owned by society. Sometimes I don't have my phone. I mean, people say, how can you not have your phone? What happens if someone needs to get in touch with you? So I said, so they'll send a pigeon. What do you mean? I'm saying, what do you mean they need to get in touch? So whatever. That's I can't live my life because what happens if someone needs to get in touch with me? It's a silly idea, right? But that's what society has become. You know, in other words, okay, you don't have to always be available to everybody. When am I myself? When can I come back to be me, my family, myself? So it comes Shabbos and says, be yourself. At the most baseline level, the reason why a human being should keep Shabbos, putting God to the side, is because that's when you could rest. That's when we rest. Be yourself. Come back to yourself. Realign yourself with your life's mission. Remember what we're here for. Remember who I am. What's me? That's what Shabbos is. When am I going to reconfigure my existence? You know, planes or high-speed trains need to constantly reconfigure. They're like a GPS. They always have to reconfigure. Now imagine you shut off the GPS. How are you going to have a reconfigure? Even if you take one little deviation, you're not going to end up where you want to go. So Shabbos says, reconfigure. Remember if I'm on the path that I really want to be on. Go back to the inner me. That's why the real rest of Shabbos is not sleeping. Yes, we need to sleep. We need physical to get back our energy. We do. And it's a mitzvah on Shabbos to sleep a little extra. But primarily, Shabbos is meant to learn Torah, to daven, to spend time at a Shabbos meal, because that's the real Jew. What does a Jew do? A Jew says, who am I? I'm a person who has a relationship with Hashem. Who am I? I'm a person who's a member of a Jewish community. Who am I? I'm a person who wants to daven to Hashem. This is who I am. So what the real rest of Shabbos is, stop with the noise of the world, the noise that says I need to be productive and create and chase money and chase success and chase power, which I should do it for 6 days. But remember, who am the real I? I'm a person who learns Torah, because that's what Hashem wants me to do. I have a family meal with my family and my friends, and we spend time together with no agenda. It's not a business meeting. We don't have an agenda. We're just celebrating life and a relationship with Hashem together. And humans that do it once a year on Thanksgiving, thank God there's Thanksgiving coming up, right? It's true. It's a beautiful thing. But Jewish people have every single week we have Shabbos. And that's just to reconfigure and realign myself and say, what am I really about? Not about sleeping all day. It's good to sleep on Shabbos, you should. It's a mitzvah. But it's the core is to say rest to come back to myself, to be my true self, to be realigned with what I want to do, and to do the things that I want to do, right? And that's why it's a mitzvah for a couple to be intimate on Shabbos, because ultimately that's the deepest definition of coming to yourself is being together with your spouse. That's who we really are. That's why family is so important on Shabbos, because who are we? We're a person at the core who has a family, who spends time with their family, who does things for Hashem. That's what Shabbos means. That's what Shabbos is about. Davening, learning, spending time with the people that Hashem and us want to spend time with. That's what a Jew does on Shabbos. So the rest, this is what resting on Shabbos means. Either A, obviously halachically, definition is non-creative work, but deeper resting on Shabbos means coming to our true self, being the true me, coming back to home, staying in my space, in my bed, in my place. That's what Shabbos means. Because I want to go one step deeper in the Kabbalah, if I could, for a second, in the Hasidic idea. If you lose me, don't feel bad, but it's fine. It's not going to be too deep, but it's nevertheless an important idea. Generally, during the week, we're not meant to indulge in the world. We're not, right? It's not the Jewish ideal to chase indulgence. It's not a Jewish idea. The ideal is to live on a minimum, have a basic, minimalistic life. And whenever I have more than that, I give to tzedakah. I used to help other people. But life is meant to be, I'm not in a pursuit of pleasures. This idea of pursuit of pleasure, pursuit of happiness, go to Thursday night's class to learn about happiness, using Stein, but we're not on a journey here of pursuit of happiness and pursuit of how much pleasure could I stuff into my body before I die. You know, the tragedy of YOLO is that YOLO is such an important Jewish line that they use to the exact opposite of what it's meant to be. You only live once. In other words, you have one shot. Do your best, right? That would be the logical conclusion of YOLO. You only live once. So like, okay, I better make my life count. I'm only here once. And here's my chance to do mitzvahs, create a world to come, leave it better off for my children, bring Mashiach. You only live once. Give it your best shot. But because it's such a powerful line, and it demands, so that demands like live your best self. So instead, what they did is YOLO, like, yeah, anyways, you only live once, so you might as well ruin your life and just throw it to the wind. What a foolish way of thinking, right? But that's basically because when something's so powerful, when it gets twisted to the exact opposite. It makes no sense, right? Like you only live once, so therefore what? Jump off the bridge? God forbid, you crazy? Right? That's basically what they're saying. Like throw it to the wind. No, you only live once. Make it count. This is your opportunity to serve Hashem. It's your opportunity to make life good for your family and friends and the people around you. This is an opportunity to bring Mashiach, to get to the world to come, to build a relationship with God. There's so much opportunity. Anyway, that's what YOLO really means. So if you see YOLO, say, good, it means you're serving Hashem. Right? That's a logical conclusion of YOLO. That would be the only sensible outcome. So
that was a deep Kabbalistic idea.
No. That was part of it. That's building it. And Joe said that was too deep for him. You couldn't handle that one. Okay, so when the world, we're not meant to live a life of indulgence. That's really Greeks were the starters, very pushing of that idea. That's just, the human body, the Olympics, it's all about your strength and your power and how much good you could have in life. It's not a Jewish idea. Not to say we should have bad lives, but that's not the pursuit we're on in life. We're on a pursuit to build a relationship with Hashem. We're on a pursuit to do mitzvahs, and that pursuit would be to help other people. I love the story in the Gemara, also with Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva and his friends, one time, they went collecting for tzedakah. They needed to raise money for the local poor people. So the first house they went to was a very, very wealthy house. But as they're about to knock on the door, they hear the master, the husband, the man of the house, telling his children to go shopping and to buy vegetables. And they said, which vegetables should we buy? And he said, the cheapest, oldest vegetables. So like, okay, this guy's a miser. Cheapest, oldest vegetables, forget it. We're not even knocking on his door. So they leave. They go collect money from the whole rest of the town. And on the way back, they said, you know what? Okay, we'll also knock on this guy's door, this rich man's door, but he's cheapskate. Anyway, they knock on his door. Oh, they come to his house, and he's in the field working. So they said, could we have tzedakah? We need to raise money for the local needy people. And Rabbi Akiva said, absolutely. Go into the house and tell my wife to please give you a cup of golden coins. A cup of golden coins. Like, wow, this guy's... Anyway, so they come to the door, and they say, we're collecting, and your husband asked that you should please give us a cup of golden coins. So she said, did he say coins full or overflowing? He didn't say overflowing. So he said, okay, I don't know, but I'm going to give you an overflowing cup. If later he says that I give too much, I'll pay out of my money that I have. I'll cover the golden coin difference. Beautiful. On the way out, he asked, how much did my wife give? She said, overflowing cup. She said, perfect. That's what I wanted. I'm happy you got the overflowing cup of gold coins. So they asked him, they said, what understand? We came here first, but we heard you telling your children to go buy the cheapest vegetables. So he said, forget it. What are we going to get out of you? 10 cents? We're out of you. But now you gave us more money than everyone in the city together. You gave us over a cup of golden coins. She said, of course, for me, we need the least. What do I need? Base old vegetables. I could live off old vegetables. But for tzedakah, to help someone else, overflowing up with golden coins. That's what they deserve. They get to deserve the best. That's really the Jewish way. For myself, I need, what do I need? Right? Nothing. What does a person need? I need shoes. I need socks. I need clothing. I need basic food. I'm shelter. I should be happy. But to do a mitzvah, I want to give the best to do a mitzvah. Right? Take care of my spouse. I want my spouse to have the best that they should have. For myself, what do I need? Way. So during the 6 days of the week, it's just important because a lot of times in America, right, people, they only want to give like their last dollar to tzedakah. For themselves, right, they want, a lot of times people are very kind and appreciate it. They come for Shabbos, they bring like a nice bottle of wine, or they bring like a nice bottle of scotch. And sometimes they say, Rabbi, this you should drink yourself, you and Devorah one time. I said, not going to happen. We're going to put it on the table and we're all going to drink it. And this is what's going to happen. And it's very kind and very thoughtful. No one's not being kind of thoughtful. But at the day, the best we have, we would love to share on the Shabbos table. That's what are you going to do with the best you have? You know, save it for you to sit on your yacht and drink over there with nobody else. What a sad, lonely life. Hey, with the best you have, you share with your friends and your guests. So during the week, our pursuit should be, or our not our pursuit, our engagement and of the world, very minimal. Don't need it. But on Shabbos, we were supposed to have a big spread. In honor of Shabbos, there's 4 things we're supposed to do on Shabbos. We're supposed to guard the Shabbos, Shomer the Shabbos, which means keep the Shabbos. We're supposed to Zachar, remember Shabbos, which means Kiddush at the beginning and Havdalah at the end. We'll be explaining everything in the next few classes. We're supposed to have kavod, respect for Shabbos, dress our finest on Shabbos, dress nicely on Oynig. We're supposed to enjoy Shabbos and have good food on Shabbos. So on Shabbos, a Shabbos meal should be lavish, right? There's a poem in the old days how they said during the week, the husbands, people worked very hard in the old days, physical labor. And during the week, they were like, I think it's called like a rabbit. You know, like it was, but on Shabbos in his home, he was the king. Because on Shabbos, that's when we bring out our finest, we bring out our delicacies, and we bring out the finest the world has to offer, and we use it to honor and delight in Shabbos. So, first of all, you say, okay, because it's Shabbos. On Shabbos, we should use all the fine foods and the finest the world has to offer to honor Shabbos, because it's a mitzvah, which is true. But deeper is because like this. When we're engaging the world, but the energy of the world is outside of God, if you will, as Hashem is not in its source. So then we're not here to indulge in the world. But when it came back to its source, the world is holy. At the core, when the world is in its godly source, it's a holy world. So it's not a indulgence in physicality. It's celebrating Hashem, godliness. What we eat on Shabbos is a godly experience. During the week, what we eat is a physical, mundane experience. So don't indulge. But on Shabbos, you're not indulging in physicality. You're indulging in spirituality. You're eating Hashem's meal. You're eating at Hashem's table. Now, there's a spiritual experience. So use all the world has to offer for the spiritual experience. That's the purpose of all the physical items in this world, is to become part of a Shabbos table. All the lox and all the salmon in the world are saying, please put me on the Shabbos table. That's the ultimate, for a salmon to end up on your Shabbos table. You've made it. They've made it. This is true, right? Because it's a spiritual experience. They become part of spiritual experience. Sometimes people say, Rabbi, I can't say l'chaim on Shabbos. I drink Thursday night. They say Thursday night is just preparing for Shabbos. If you drink Thursday night, how much more so you got to drink on Shabbos, right? In other words, really stop drinking Thursday night, because then you should be cooking your Shabbos dishes. And on Shabbos, that's when a Yid celebrates. That's when you say l'chaim, because that's when the finest of the world becomes a spiritual experience. On Thursday night, it's just a mundane experience. It might be part of a Fabregan, might be something good. I'm not saying it can't be good. But on Shabbos, that's when a Yid celebrates. That's a celebration of everything in the world, because everything's back in its source. Okay. So with this, I'm going to end. and pick up next week. So Shabbos, like we said, has 4 parts. We have to, in the 10 Commandments, it says, Zachar es Yom Shabbos Kadshei. Remember Shabbos to keep it holy, which means we have to make Kiddush to find when someone remember it when it comes in and say, hey, now it's Shabbos. Rabbinic Crown Heights, they have it December 9th and 10th. We're all going. Put on your calendars. For real, it's a beautiful Shabbaton there, December 9th and 10th. We're gonna experience Shabbos at the next level, so we hope you all come. There's a Shabbos alarm. Shabbos is coming. In the time of the Beis Hamikdash, they would blow trumpets 3 different times on Friday to let everyone know, close your shops. Start getting ready for Shabbos. Light your candles. Here we go. Shabbos is coming. So we have to remember Shabbos. Then it says in the 10 Commandments also, Shomer, guard the Shabbos. Guard the Shabbos means there's 39 types of work that we don't do. Don't do them on Shabbos. Keep the Shabbos holy. In the Navi, and the prophets added 2 other categories. Covet, respect the Shabbos, wear your Shabbos finest, right? That's why if you ask, what should you wear to your Shabbos dinner? At CYP, we say you should wear your Shabbos chic, because where's nice clothing made for? It's made for Shabbos. That's when we wear nice clothing. And Oineg, we should delight in Shabbos. And please God, over the next 5 sessions, we will learn about all these 4 categories. Just to spell it out so everyone understands, we're going to learn what happens at the Shabbos table. There's the meals of Shabbos, the Kiddush of Shabbos, the Motzi of Shabbos, the Chal of Shabbos, the food of Shabbos, the songs of Shabbos. We're going to learn about the Shabbos kitchen. It's going to be the hardest, but we're going to make our way through it. What about a hot plate on Shabbos, cutting up food on Shabbos, mincing food on Shabbos, squeezing foods on Shabbos, selecting food on Shabbos. That's going to be, wish us luck. We're going to learn what happens in the shul on Shabbos. We're going to learn about carrying or not carrying on Shabbos, the public domain. We'll discuss the Erev as well. And we are going to go through the 39 different categories of work that we do not do on Shabbos as well. So if you have any Shabbos questions, it would be very helpful for me if you submit them before. I may not answer all of them in the class, but please God will get you answers. And also, please God, by next week, everyone will get this and we'll learn inside Illustrated Guide to Shabbos. It's step by step. Thank you very much for joining. One other thing is, if you do not yet fully keep Shabbos, I think there was an announcement, but I'm just going to announce it again. Just let me or Levi know. If you come to the classes and keep one Shabbos, there's a community member who will give you $500 cash. It's not about the money, but it's about that he wants very much to inspire and encourage people to keep Shabbos. Your Shabbos to keep could be the one in Crown Heights on December 9th and 10th, which will be an incredible Shabbaton and also be a beautiful Shabbos experience. Thank you very much.